Oh my god, is this the best cinematic trailer for 2020? Let's check out Watch Dogs, Legion, Tipping Point. Watch Dogs Legions is a game coming out from Ubisoft, and this is now the third one in the franchise. It's set in a dystopian future, and so it lends itself to having some real unique visuals and visual styles that can be added to a cinematic trailer, which is what I like about this trailer as it comes out, is that it's taken the gameplay and the world of Watch Dogs and really crammed it into what is a beautifully styled cinematic trailer. One of the real exciting things about the Tipping Point cinematic trailer is the director, Alberto Mielgo. Now, he's come from quite a long line of being involved in different things, but a few things which you'll probably know him for might be the Tron Uprising series, where he got to be the art director on it. He was also one of the key creatives for the look of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse look and feel, and he's also been now a Emmy Award winning director for the Love, Death and Robots episode, The Witness. And his style has been great in bringing the energy and the excitement to this trailer. There's a few key points within this trailer that I really want to focus on. While overall there is a beautiful story and they've kept a lot of while overall this trailer tells a story, and the story is really well constructed with hidden parts in it and a beautiful misdirect that leads you in one direction and is revealed halfway through to be something totally different and probably tells a story about the game a lot more. There's a few things I want to pick out in here that are told really, really well. First thing to pick on is the edge of frame. They haven't shied away from using the edge of frame or pushing the edge of frame. So we can see in this first one, this first image here, they've chopped the face off at the side and it's filled up, you know, a good half of the shot here, but it's pushed most of it off the edge of the frame, while the body and the background is all off in distant focus. So they've got a really shallow depth of field, but they've pushed a lot of what is in focus off the frame. It creates a very uneasy feel. It creates a very authentic action feel when you've got action that falls off the frame. Not only have they used their focal point right to the edge, we can also see in frames like this where their negative space is a lot more than half the frame. It's really interesting to see action when it does come in. Our character has come cruising in around from right to left, and then she started running forward and she ends off running off the right of frame as well. But the shallow depth of field again is pushed right into the background just around the corner, and over half of the frame is negative space with all the action. As we can see, even the character in here already is coming off the frame when she's been running off the side of the frame, but she gets cut off by the edge of frame for most of this shot. She appears from that side and she vanishes that side. Her reflection does go past us, but that happens really quickly as well. I really love that push on the frame. It does add for the scatteredness and the franticness of this sequence when she does stay so close to the edge. Continuing with that line of thought, we've got our character who's focused on the right of frame, going up the elevators, which are all out of focus. All these leading lines back here are all leading us back to a point which is right over in this part of the frame, right on the edge. And we've used something we'll touch on a lot in this as well, being these LED lights. They've really pushed these lights a lot. But their focus point down here, as we can see right at the front, is all in focus, like right here on the left of frame. This particular board is in focus, and we lose focus all the way to the back of the frame. Very interesting to see that the action is all leading us to the distance, which is right on the edge. Like, look how close it is to the edge of frame. It's pushed way off to the third, even past that third. But definitely my favorite shot which I was looking at through this trailer. Since I've watched it a few times now, I keep coming back to this shot and this framing. I really love how they haven't been afraid to push the blacks in this. They are moving for a darker feel. You know, their target audience is above 18 years old. So they've been able to really push some of the dark themes. And it's a real scary image, seeing that the frame is cut on a slant and just left that one corner in there. Plus the image they've used of the mask being red and gritty, really red. I mean, if you look at it, that is a very sinister looking mask. And it is in focus, which is good, but it's way off the frame, and we've got 3/4 of the frame negative space and even just a slither up in the corner. That's all that's in focus and that's all that's revealed. And it really does unsettle the viewer experience. They've even gone to the effort of putting a crack in the mirror here, so he's not a clear reflection. So you've got the crack in the mirror which splits him, plus we've got all the graffiti in the background, which is not in focus. We've got 3/4 of the screen is black, and there's that one little bit of red in focus, and it's a really beautifully framed image inside this frenetic pace of cutting. The next thing I want to talk about within this sequence was the use of wide lenses. Wide angle lenses are traditionally used for landscapes or objects where you're trying to get big scenic views happening. When it's crushed into something that's so frenetic and so action-packed, you find that it creates a very unusual warping within a character that comes right up on top of the lens then. If you see, what works really well with this character, or with the characters when it's used, is they have a mask on. When you put the mask in here, it does distort the mask. But because we're actually looking at a mask rather than seeing someone's face, it helps show the shape as being quite bizarre. I mean, we're going into a bizarre world to start off with, but having it put with a big lens in here, we can tell that it's a wide lens by looking at the lines in the background, whereas they are bent and they're helping lead back into the background. Where they would usually be straight lines. Buildings are normally straight. If you go with a standard 50mm lens, which we're used to using, you'd see straight lines leading to the background. But these are warped, so they've gone for a wider lens, and they've helped really push this character away. We can tell, you know, from the previous shape, she's leaning forward, she's leaning right into the camera lens as well, which has really helped push these warpy sort of shapes. Again, with this particular shot, you can see in the background that these would normally be straight lines. If we're ever looking at lights or looking at concrete posters or walkways, they're always flat. But because they've gone for such a wide lens, we get this distorted look. It really adds to the shots which are around it, to help with action and that dystopian feel if we walk things around. There's a couple of things inside this trailer which I do want to pick out. It's just being pedantic after you watch it a few times, but this head on this woman with the black hair and the height and skinny lankiness, she appears a few times. If you want to just throw down in the comments how many times you can spot her within the trailer, I'd love to see who can get it. The last thing I want to touch on, which they have done in an incredibly stylistic way, is their lighting. They've really focused on using these LEDs, which are all around the city. And they're there to add backlight. So nearly every time that we're watching action or some sort of cinema, some sort of pace, or especially in the first half of this trailer, they've used the LED screens to frame our characters. And you will find that the characters are always dark, the dark shapes. And they're the foreground thing and they're the dark shape. But we get a really clear silhouette in the front, in the foreground. But the background is what's really bright. Even though the city itself that they're framed in is actually a dark, grungy city, it gives a really interesting contrast where they're not lighting the character up, they're making the character dark. It's a very interesting contrast to what we normally see within film world, where most of the times you're trying to light the character so the character looks great. What they've done in here is use the lights in the background to give a clear silhouette about what the character is doing. As we can see in this shot, the LED background is really bright and overblown and overpowering, a very consistent color with their reds in it. But if we look at the silhouette that's here, we can clearly see that our character is black, and you can just see her pose and what's going to happen. So I've really liked their choices for what they've done there. And the last thing, which just threw me off after having this brilliant sequence that got me so damn excited with so much technology and the way they shot it and the handheld cameras and the shake and the suspense, and I loved it so much. But after all that, I'm looking at a character's face, I'm looking up his nose, and he's got these two little squiggles that's the bottom of his nose. And that really threw me out of this whole cinematic universe, when all I see for the character, his main character, we're looking up at him, his eyes are captivating, his hair is realistic, we're getting the fall off the light through his ears, the background's blurry, even got the stubble, looks like individual hairs, but his nose is just a couple of what look like texture marks on the bottom of his nose. So there you have it. That's some of the reasons why I love the Tipping Point trailer. Let me know down in the comments below if there are any other reasons that really jumped out at you at why it was an awesome trailer. So until the next time, I'll see you soon.